This is my social media personal learning presentation. Social media. We all know what that includes: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube and Tumblr, and the list of sites is endless. Yet when I was a young teenager, none of the sites I mentioned even existed. It was all about Bebo and MySpace, and young teens today don't even know what those sites are. Bebo is only just being re-released, though I doubt it will take off in the same way. Social media is good for keeping in contact with friends, but one thing I've learned is that it gives people a fake persona to how they are in real life. For example, I'm confident when talking online, but in person I would never talk in the same way. In fact, I would barely say anything I would say online. As a keen gamer myself, this was one of the few topics from the module that I found myself keenly interested in. While doing some research during a lab session, I discovered that the older game consoles are selling more to date than recent console releases, such as the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. It made me wonder why people are preferring outdated consoles to brand new ones. I myself own a PlayStation 2 and constantly use it because not only can I afford one of the latest consoles, I don't actually want one. I know that Sony stopped releasing new games for the console years ago, but now that some people want the latest console, they sell the PlayStation 2 games cheaply to people such as myself. Moving on to photography and phonography. I'm a keen photographer owning several different cameras, but with phonography I'm the complete opposite. Though before this topic came up in the module, I had no idea what it meant until I looked it up. When I leave the house, the one thing I never leave without is my mobile phone. I have a Samsung Galaxy S3, which has an amazing camera, and more times than often I have used it to capture some of my best photos while on a journey home. This topic also kept my interest during the lecture because it involved diving into the history of photography before film cameras even existed in Victorian times. We were told about the ways that photos were captured and the different types of cameras that were first invented. I like history. Broadcasting. I'm broadcasting to you right now. I'm telling you something. We also know broadcasting to be the news, so programmes such as Sky News or BBC News broadcast from a studio somewhere in London. And we sit down in the morning with our tea and toast and watch a newsreader talk about what's happening with Iraq or what the Royals are up to. And when something suddenly changes, we can get the news broadcasted to our TVs from either the studios or sometimes even in another country. We can also use the internet to broadcast something. We can broadcast our creativity using YouTube, Tumblr, Facebook and other social media networking sites, because the advance in technology allows us to. Spreadability. The basic meaning? How easily can we share content? Well, in my opinion, thanks to the internet and social networking sites, pretty easily I should say. Especially with Facebook, where if a friend of mine shares a video on their timeline, I can see it, watch it, and if I wanted to, share it. So then all my friends can see it and the pattern continues. This is also what makes viral videos. I remember during this lecture the title slide had a slice of toast and a knife with butter on it. Kind of speaks for itself. Animation cinema was my favourite topic that was covered in the module. It was basically about animated films from companies such as Disney, DreamWorks, etc. I love Disney and still watch their films. This topic allowed me to research into depth the timeline of animation technology. I grew up watching Disney films, but what I didn't know is that some of the films I watched were older than my parents. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, for example, was released in 1937, almost 60 years before I was even born. I was really shocked. I did some research and comparing with Disney's latest film, Frozen, and there was a lot to compare. Snow White was the first feature-length colour animation released by Disney, but technology was nowhere near as good back then as it is today. The colours were not very vibrant, the sound was not fantastic, so compare that with Frozen that has 3D imaging, bright colours and clear sound. I think we know which comes out on top. But another thing that Disney is doing is re-releasing new advanced versions of the original films. The colours are made more vibrant, the sound is better, and I think that the film could pass for a film released in the last decade. Everyone is a critic nowadays. Social media is allowing young people to grow up too fast. Facebook has an age limit of 12, but is that stopping 9-year-olds from lying about their age? No, it's not. My own cousins are only turning 12 this year, and they have both been on Facebook for nearly 2 years. It's not right. There are pros and cons to social media, but why does there have to be? In the labs and lectures for this topic, I wondered why there has to be cons to families keeping in touch from different countries. Why there has to be cons with fans keeping up to date with their favourite celebrities on Twitter. And why budding directors have to follow rules on YouTube to get their videos uploaded. Whenever there is a con, there is a pro to match it. The last one, collective intelligence. I had to reread all the lecture slides for this topic, and from what I read, it basically asks what technology is going to be like in the future. We already have things like the Google Glass that allows people to be ignorant in a whole other way, but in 20 years' time, will we have some sort of contact lens that allows us to watch films instead of going to the cinema? Will someone finally invent a hoverboard? Will any of today's fiction technology actually be invented? We always ask the questions, but we won't get any fast answers because we have to live on the slow path and find out new things as we get older. Thank you for watching my presentation, and I hope you enjoyed my reviews on this module.